We have some breaking news, Chicago Bears fans. My name is Harrison Graham. This is Chicago Bears Now by Chat Sports. The Bears are expected to bench left tackle Braxton Jones. He was taken out of the game on Sunday, and it appears that is going to be permanent. So we're going to break this all down and tell you who's expected to step in his place as this team's starting left tackle. But this is why you subscribe. When big news drops, small news drops, we drop a video. That's how we rock. That's how we roll. We just crossed 132,000. Shout out to all you. Let's get to 133,000 before the bye week's over. Why freaking not? Share this channel with the Bears friend of yours. Let's keep this thing popping. All right. Theo Benedet, the Canadian Eagle, is the expected replacement for Braxton Jones, according to Brad Biggs, who had this report. I want to give him credit. Obviously, Biggs said this in his column, in his article. He said, quote, "A source said that Braxton Jones, is not expected to start October 13th at Washington. The situation remains fluid." We'll talk about that later on. And Benedet is the likely replacement. Now, let me first just say this. I'm not surprised that Braxton Jones is getting benched, and really for a lot of reasons. One, he's in a contract year. He's probably not in their future plans. Two, he played pretty well against Dallas, but overall he has not looked like he did before. And as we've said many times on the show, what he was before was serviceable to above average, but, you know, he needed to at least get back to that level. He has not gotten back to that. That ankle doesn't feel as strong as it did before. And three, Ben Johnson basically told us that this was going to happen, or that there was a good chance this would happen. This was Ben back in August during training camp when, at the time, it was clear no one was running away with the left tackle job. He said, quote, "It could be that we have to reassess after a couple of weeks, or by the bye week, we might have to reassess. It wouldn't be ideal, but that's the name of the league." That's what they're doing. It happened on Sunday against the Raiders. They clearly wanted to get Theo some opportunities at both positions. He also finished that game in Detroit with about 15 snaps. They also wanted to play Ozzie Trapillo. We'll tie him and Darnell Wright into this discussion in this video as well. But 1 out of 4 games, Braxton's played well. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. Aiden Hutchinson was putting him in a blender in Detroit. Sure, he played well against Dallas. They don't have any threatening pass rushers, especially not without Micah Parsons. What say you? Is benching Braxton Jones the right call? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let me know what you guys think, because even though he has not played very well, that doesn't guarantee that this ends up being the right move for this team this year. Now, again, I think the Bears know, and I think a small part of this is, okay, this is the last year of his rookie deal. They know he's not the long-term answer. Like, they don't plan on paying him. So if there's another option or options, even if it's not some major upgrade, well, if it's a guy who could become the long-term answer or who is under contract for multiple years, if it's kind of the same thing, worst-case scenario, then why not go in that direction? That's where we get to the Canadian Eagle, Theo Benedet. He is the expected starter here. Again, it remains fluid according to Brad Biggs. But can he get this opportunity, A? And if he does, can he run with this opportunity? I thought on Sunday against the Raiders, it started out pretty poorly. Max Crosby was giving him problems. Now, that was at right tackle. I think once they shuffled, they moved him to left. Thought he looked more comfortable there. I thought in the preseason he looked more comfortable on the left side. Finishing that Detroit game, he looked there. But it's valuable that he can play both sides. But I think it's a stretch to say that we feel super confident that he's the long-term answer or even a better answer in the short term. Will it be at least around the same? I would think so, because Braxton just hasn't played that well. Ideally, it at least is, 10% better than Braxton Jones. And I do want to get to some Ben Johnson quotes here on the other side of the break, because I wonder if part of this decision is about the running game and the lack of production that the Bears have gotten on the ground so far this season. So we'll explore that, plus the right tackle implications. What does this mean for Darnell Wright and obviously Ozzie Trapillo? But I do want to tell you guys about today's sponsor. That is Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. I did it again. Hit another 3-player lineup, 20-1, win 120 last night. you may have to start copying my lineups. Just throwing that out there. 2 to 6 player entries, you choose more or less on stat projections. And if you hit, you are going to cash out. And speaking of chasing my picks or other picks, follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click, whether it's a friend, celebrity partner, or someone whose picks you like. Hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. Got a little 2-player entry for this upcoming week. Dak Prescott more than his passing yards. He's been cooking this year. Daniel Jones as well. I like more than 221.5 on that number. I think that's a relatively small number against that Raiders defense that we just saw on Sunday. So get started today. Download the Prize Picks app and use our code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Okay, let's explore Theo Benedet a little bit closer, and let's tie in the run game aspect of this because that's something Ben Johnson pointed to here. Here's what Ben had to say just about Theo himself. He said he's a really good run blocker, first and foremost. It probably took him just a minute to settle in on Sunday. It didn't matter which side it was going to be on, right or left. He's equally proficient in either one. I think he's looked better at left, but it's tough to face Max Crosby. He's just had a good spring and summer for us that I've got a lot of confidence. Okay. Ben Johnson also on the run game struggles mentioned this. He said, I don't think our running struggles were a reflection of DeAndre. He's a guy that continues to run the ball very hard, even though the yards per carry aren't where any of us want them to be right now. He's as frustrated as anybody. He's very prideful in what he can do and what he brings to the table. And Ben's been fairly adamant saying, I don't think this is solely a DeAndre Swift issue. Now, I think there's some metrics that suggest he's been part of the problem, but we've mentioned it a lot. I think the pass protection for this offensive line has been better than the run blocking. I think creating those open lanes has been pretty inconsistent so far up to this point. Now, you do wonder, because what did Ben Johnson say in training camp? Ideally, his offensive tackles, first and foremost, can protect one-on-one in an island. Well, you may not have that. You may not have someone who can do that consistently on the left side. I think Darnell does it pretty consistently on the right side. You're hoping Ozzie does at some point, whether it's right or left. But if you don't have that on the left side, well, if you think Theo's an upgrade in the run game and at least about the same as a pass protector, and he's probably a little better. Braxton's always been a better run blocker than pass protector, but again, with that ankle, doesn't feel as mobile this year, as strong. I don't think he's been a plus in the run game either, which he has in the past. Then maybe that's just kind of the thinking here. It's like, well, we're not going to have a great one-on-one pass protecting left tackle this year, but we think Theo Benedet is healthier, stronger, can help more in the run game. We're going to make that move. Maybe that's part of the calculus here. And if that's the case, doesn't it kind of feel like the end for Braxton in Chicago? Again, he's in a contract year. You're not going to bring him back. I mean, sure, if an injury happens, but would they even go back to him? Is Ozzie the swing tackle? But that's fluid as well, because can Ozzie play left tackle in a pinch? Do they trust him to do that? So they may still have to hang on to Braxton for the rest of this year to be the backup left tackle. But I think long term, it's safe to say that he is not in their plans. So should the Bears just trade him? Like, would you trade Braxton Jones? We saw Cam Robinson get traded. Now, that was for like a 2 drafts from now, late round pick swap. Like, if that's the only trade on the table, I'd probably just keep him. But, we'll have to wait and see. Some team, did the Chargers get desperate with their offensive tackle situation? Type T for trade, K for keep. If it's a 6 for 7th swap, 2 drafts from now, I'd probably just keep him. But, if it's in the upcoming draft, or if you could just get an individual pick, I'd consider trading him, especially if they're kind of signaling that they're not going to pay him. Okay, let's revisit that little phrase from Biggs that he reported on, that the situation remains fluid, because something we explored on our live show yesterday and in the video earlier today is part of the possibility here that you would move Darnell Wright to left tackle. Like, is that a real option for the Chicago Bears at this point in time? Well, if the reporting's accurate that Theo Benedet is the expected starter, then it would appear no, but situation remains fluid. Could that mean that they're going to give Darnell a few reps at left tackle and just see how it looks in practice, and if there's good enough signs that they would consider it? Now, a couple things to consider there. One, that's a big ask for anybody to have them switch sides on the offensive line mid-season, especially when you've never played left tackle in the NFL. He's played exclusively right tackle for his first 2 years and all of this year and his senior year at Tennessee. His junior year at Tennessee, he played left tackle. He wasn't as good on that side. But, you get a year older, he's probably just a better player in general. It doesn't mean he couldn't do it, but we're talking 3-4 years removed from playing left tackle. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, he does have an elbow injury, which we don't really know the severity of. Like, we don't even know if he'll be ready after the bye week. I think we hope and think he probably will. He's been a tough player. He's played through stuff before, but who knows? Elbows are kind of funky deals. So, that's a big ask. And, they practice today, and then they're off until they return from the bye week on Monday. So, if he's not ready to go out there today and practice, then, you're not even going to get that up-close look of, even just some simple pass sets at left tackle. And then that brings us to the question of, okay, what about Ozzie? Well, I don't think he's in the mix to be the left tackle right now. They put that experiment on pause toward the end of training camp. And this past weekend, he came in and played right tackle, thought he held his own. But they do want to play him. It seems like they want to get him on the field. So, are we going into a competition on the right side now? Is this going to be Theo and Ozzie are the two tackles now? Is Darnell on the bench even if he's healthy? That's a tough sell to me. And look, I've heard whispers they don't love his conditioning. They're obviously frustrated with the penalties. I understand all of that, and I'm not saying you give the guy a pass. But to me, and I'm not an expert, but I trust my eyes enough, I think that Darnell Wright is pretty clearly this team's best offensive tackle. Now, again, could he be a little out of shape? I've heard whispers that they've been frustrated with that. Does the mental part of the game, cost the Bears at times from him because he has pre-snap penalties sometimes? Yeah, those are all potential for sure with the penalties and the conditioning. That's the team knows that better than I would. But those are legitimate concerns. But he's still your best tackle. You're telling me Theo and Ozzie is better than Theo and Darnell? I don't know about that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all this comes together. But what it sounds like for sure, at least 90%, that Braxton's being benched and that Theo is the likely replacement. What happens on the right side if both Darnell and Ozzie are healthy? I would guess Darnell's the starter, but maybe it's like a short leash. If he rips a couple penalties, maybe they yank him out. And listen, I'm all about sending messages, but I also want the best players on the field. Who starts at right tackle? Type DW for Darnell Wright or OT for Ozzie Trapillo. Things are getting fascinating. The good news is all this shuffling, you would think that this team's in a disastrous place. They're 2-2, so it could be a lot worse. All right, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. If more news drops, we will hit you guys with a video. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to the show. We'll see you guys soon. Bear down.